What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Game Show brought to you by Front Yard Fantasy here on Better Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my wildly handsome co-hosts, John Lou Garofalo and Joey Wright. And joining us today, we have our great friend, Julia Papworth here. For those of you that do not know Julia, you can find her on Twitter at Julia Papworth. You can also check out her work with the Fantasy Footballers and over at the Pro Football Network. And you can catch her on video at Win Daily Sports. Julia, thank you so much for taking the time to come and play some games with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I didn't get the hat memo, so there's that, but you know.
Yeah, we like to make our guests feel excluded in at least one way. Today it's hats. Honestly, hats is one of the easier ones, though.
Yeah. You boys have it easy with the hats.
If you think the hat is because I want to wear a hat every day, then you're wrong. This hat is a shield.
We did discuss hair. Oh, yeah, that's funny.
We got some people in the chat ready for today's show. Our chat historian stopping by with Julia's stat, saying Julia is making her 7th Front Yard Fantasy appearance today and playing in her 3rd game. We're bringing her back to play the game that she has played all of her other appearances so far. 1-1 in Fantasy Fortune, going for that winning record today of 2-1. Julia, you think you can take down John, Luke, and Joey to snatch that elusive winning record?
I mean, I wrote it in the chat, but I hope I don't Arizona Cardinals this. So, which we are nailing it. We are nailing it.
Oh my God. They are so good at tanking. They are the best at tanking. Nobody suspects them for tanking now.
I know. In the second quarter, I turned to my husband. I was like, are we going to flipping win this? Because we can't win this. I don't want to win this. That will not get us Caleb Williams. That will not do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's hilarious.
The Buccaneers are not good at tanking.
What'd you say? We're not.
The Buccaneers are not good at tanking.
The Buccaneers need to take some lessons from the Arizona Cardinals. Going up 20-0 at halftime and then convincingly losing that game is... Jill, you're right. It's next level. It's next level tanking. It is.
Buda Baker didn't even play.
And they still made it look convincing.
Yeah. What was happening?
We got some other people in the chat ready for today's show. Toronto Dave stopping by. It's party Dave? Every day. Dame Overboard in the chat saying hello, FYF. What's up, Dame? Welcome. And Scott Fish coming in showing some love for our guests, saying Julia is the best. We got Dustin hopping on hashtag Team Joey yet again. And Mr. Scampers, hyped to see Julia here as well. You already got a cheer.
And Tim, too.
Yeah, Tim down here saying, oh, hi, airport crew. Finn's 2-0, baby. And Andrea.
They look so good. They looked so good last night.
They look like a very good team. Andrea down here saying, hi, everybody. And Albert in here saying hello to everyone as well.
Hello, Albert.
We got a full squad in here ready to play some fantasy and talk about some of the stuff that went down in this week's games and get prepped for some Monday Night Football. If you guys have questions throughout today's show, some burning start-sit questions heading into Monday night, maybe some early waiver wire questions, throw them our way. We'd be more than happy to answer them in between rounds of the game today. Before we get into that, though, a couple reminders. First and foremost, if you're not already following our guest, Julia, do it. You can find her on at Julia Papworth. The link is in the YouTube video description, whether you're watching on BSN or here at Front Yard Fantasy. Wherever you're watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of our shows live every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're looking for some last-minute Monday Night Football advice or looking ahead to Week 3, you should head to fantasyalarm.com/NFL and start your free 7-day trial of the All-Pro subscription. Get that head start going into your Week 3 DFS slates. With that said, you guys ready to play some Fantasy Fortune?
Can I ask my fantasy football question before we get into it? I actually have a question.
Yes, I would love to have you ask your fantasy football question.
Amari Cooper is starting now.
That's what I got that. Yeah.
I am down by 0.13 points, and I have to play either Amari Cooper or Allen Robinson. I'm in shambles right now.
I'm legally bound not to support Allen Robinson, so I can't.
But see, that's the thing is, I'm afraid that Amari Cooper is going to be a decoy.
Yeah, but it's Allen Robinson. I can't. That's really hard. That's really hard. And he has nobody.
Well, no, he has no one. And so without Deontay Johnson, and Pickens might be limited, I feel like Robinson's at least going to catch a ball. That's all I need you to do is catch the ball one time, and then I win.
Do it. Let's see.
Well, then don't fumble later on after you catch that ball.
Oh God, could
He
you
needs to catch
imagine?
3 balls tonight for 30 yards, and then I'll be happy.
Best
Seems
of luck.
doable.
Thank you.
Best
You
of
guys
luck.
helped me through that.
I'm with Dustin, Joey. That's A-Rob. You got to do it. Amari Cooper, like
Yeah,
it's too risky throwing Amari Cooper. I benched Amari Cooper in a bunch of leagues going into this weekend.
I did
too.
Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. But either way, I still I'm happy with that choice, even if he is playing tonight. We'll see though.
Cool. Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see. Watch Amari Cooper drop
hang
like
up.
30 PPR fantasy
Oh my
points
God,
tonight.
could you imagine?
Yeah, thanks for the call. Next caller, please. And before we get in there, before I explain these rules, Andrea had a question for us as well.
Ooh, let's answer it.
Going into tonight's game, has a tight end decision. Pat Fryermuth or David Njoku, PPR. Joey, you did mention Deontay Johnson out. We've also got Amari Cooper dealing with an injury, but supposed to play. Julie, I'm going to throw this one to you. Which of the tight ends in this game would you be starting tonight?
I mean, if we're going with Joey's logic and we think that Amari Cooper might just be there for cardio and shits and giggles, I would say maybe Njoku just a little bit. Like, I really want to believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, but like I did not like the first week of that. So yeah, maybe maybe slightly Njoku, but I feel like if anyone's gonna catch a touchdown, it's gonna be the Muth, maybe for Pittsburgh. Fuck, dude, I don't. Ooh, wait, can I curse on this?
Yeah,
I'm cursing. Okay, just checking.
Oh yeah.
I should have
way worse than that.
We won't tell the boss.
Okay.
God.
John Luke, are you starting Muth or are you starting Njoku?
This is, I think you could tell probably from Julia's tone that this is so even. These two guys, it's just like, it feels like they're so balanced this week. Their upside and their floor. Muth, I like his offense better. And Njoku, I like the offense. I'm worried about last week, but I'm hoping that's just the rain. So honestly, go with whichever of these two players you feel more confident in, because I don't think that there's an answer other than 50-50 this week.
Yeah.
I pulled up the anytime touchdown score odds for this game. Just curious, maybe it's a little tiebreaker. What does Vegas think? They're practically identical. Like David Njoku at plus 340, Pat Fryermuth at plus 330. And as I said it, they're now even. I would just switch the tab back. The Fryermuth line moved up. They are both at plus 340 now.
Thanks for tuning in, Vegas.
We had somebody ask us this exact question in our Discord earlier
Vegas
today. No, they should have asked that too. They asked about Pat Fryermuth or David Njoku. And I answered David Njoku, and that's without Amari Cooper playing. And now, like you guys are saying, it's almost dead even.
Yeah.
Whew. Also, Dame down here giving us an update on the Guillotine League. Said swapped Gabe the Babe out for Elijah Moore with the Cooper news in Guillotine.
Oh,
oops. And Dame is risking elimination tonight, so needs Elijah Moore to do something.
Dame, I love you so much, but I really want you to crap the bed, because if you go down, I won't. So, because I'm right there with you.
Joey is one of the 4 teams up for elimination in that league. Well, guys, today we brought Julia here for her 3rd game of Fantasy Fortune, trying to take down John, Luke, and Joey. I'm going to explain the rules, and then we are going to get started. Our game today, like I mentioned, is Fantasy Fortune. And if you've ever watched the popular TV show Wheel of Fortune, it's going to look very familiar. I'm going to put a puzzle up on the board with a category. Our contestant's job is to figure out what that puzzle says. In order to do that, they're going to be answering 50-50 NFL or fantasy-related trivia questions in order to guess letters that they think will be in that puzzle. When it's your turn, I'll ask you a question like, who scored more PPR fantasy points last week, Cam Akers or Deonta Foreman? You would give me your answer. If you're correct, you will get to guess a consonant that you think appears on the puzzle, and you'll earn $500 for every instance of that consonant that shows up. Now, you can do this 3 times in a row before your turn is over. That is, answer a question correctly, get a letter correct. If at any point during your turn, you get a question or a letter wrong, your turn is immediately over. And at the end of that 3rd question, if you get it right, you'll have 5 seconds to solve before you bank all of that money and we move on to the next contestant. During your turn, there are 2 other actions you can take before a question has been asked. You can choose to buy a vowel as long as you have a minimum of 500 in that round bank, or you can choose to solve the puzzle at any time. Letters be damned on the board. You'll earn a minimum of $1,000 or the amount you have in your round bank, whichever one happens to be higher at that time. We'll go like this till we run out of puzzles, run out of time, or run out of letters that are available to guess, at which point the person with the most money is our Fantasy Fortune champion on this beautiful Monday. You ready?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Woo!
I gave a nice but I was muted.
Damon here said, stopped listening after Joey said he loves me. We got the important parts of that message.
He says that to everybody.
That's what my wife says. We go to bed at night. I'm like, hey, honey, I love you. And then I start saying more stuff, but she's already asleep.
All right, well, guys, we're going to load up this first puzzle. And for the first one, everything I said was a lie because it's going to roll a little bit differently. This is a toss-up. This is the name of an NFL player. I'm going to slowly reveal letters. When you think you know who it is, say your name. If you buzz in and get it correct, you're going to earn $500, and you will get to go first in the next round, the first real puzzle of the game. With that being said,
JL.
No,
hey,
Joey.
Seriously?
You jerk.
JL, who do you think this is?
Does it count?
Well, what do you want me to say? 3, 2, 1, go? It's going to count because you're a jackass, and that's the fairest way to do this, okay? So it's counting, and you have to live with that.
Kirk Cousins.
JL, that is incorrect.
That was my guess.
You are ineligible to play going forward. I'm going to start revealing letters. Joey and Julia, if you think you know the answer, buzz in.
Joey.
Okay, Joey, who is this?
Nico Collins.
This is not Kirk Cousins. It is CJ Stroud's best friend,
Collins.
Collins.
Bob.
Kirk Collins.
Kirk Collins.
JL, I was 100% going to say Kirk Cousins. I'm so glad you missed it.
JL falling on the Kirk Cousins sword just one more time. Joe, I wanted to ask you about Nico Collins. I think just because of your Damian Pierce love, I just associate you with young Texans fantasy stars.
And
like,
Mechie too.
Mechie, Pierce. Like, it feels like you're just a
true.
Texans young player fan.
Yeah.
So whenever I saw Nico Collins blow up this week, I was like, oh, I bet Joey's happy. And I was like, wait, why do I think Joey would be happy?
Big Houston fan.
I've been to Houston one time. I was in the Springs and I loved it. I thought it was great. Went to the Woodlands too. It's a good time. But I did not draft a lot of Nico Collins this year, and I'm kind of regretting that. He looks like the number one wide receiver for the Texans right now. It doesn't look like anyone there is pushing him. Damian Pierce has fallen to the wayside, sadly. I've been crying for 2 weeks now. But yeah,
Same.
Nico Collins looks like the real deal for sure.
Yeah.
Julia, it sounds like you agree. You think Nico Collins can sustain this throughout the season with CJ Stroud?
I mean, they're going to have to throw. What did he throw for? Like 300 and something? Like he threw for a ridiculous amount of yardage.
2 TDs this week. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, and Tank Dell did pretty well too. I'm a big Tank Dell fan. Like, maybe they could also just throw to Damian Pierce. That would be cool too for me. But yeah, I think Nico is going to be the number one option over there. And it seems like there's other people you can start too, which is really nice.
JL, the guy throwing Nico Collins the ball, do you think maybe as a community we slept on CJ Stroud for fantasy purposes? Because he's looking pretty good. He's got over 600 yards through the first 2 weeks of the season passing, throwing to Nico Collins, John Mechie with a young running back there. Like, do you think this is something that fantasy managers, if CJ Stroud's sitting on the waiver wire, maybe need to pay attention to?
I can tell you exactly why this is different than how we expected. And it's because all of a sudden, CJ Stroud has become Joe Flacco, and they are giving him all of the passing attempts. 44 in week 1, 47 in week 2. That's an absurd number. They're not going to pass that heavily. What I'm guessing that they're doing right now is they expected teams to underestimate them in the passing game. And they are leaning into that strength heavily in the first part of the season until other NFL teams adjust to the fact that the Texans can now throw. And then, then maybe we'll see a shift back to the run game as teams start to figure out what their strategy is. But I mean, it's different. We didn't expect D'Amico Ryans coming in with CJ Stroud and throw for almost, I can't add, it's like 89, I think, 89 attempts in 2 weeks. That's different.
I'm with you, JL. Dustin Dynasty, Stroud was, and will forever be the best QB from the draft. And even if you didn't necessarily believe that or align with Dustin on that, it was pretty consensus that he was the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft, that he was the
Yeah.
most ready. And when you look at the Texans making the decision to draft him over some of the other quarterbacks still sitting there on the board, it kind of makes sense that they're letting him chuck the ball 40 times a game, right? That's why they drafted CJ Stroud instead of an Anthony Richardson. It was so that they could have a quarterback they could trust to throw the ball 40 times. I didn't see it, but it makes sense.
And I mean, like, how are you going to get better? It's putting the reps in, right? It's seeing all the different situations and being like, how to adjust on the fly and throwing it to different people and figuring different stuff out. And that's how you do
Great
it.
point.
And I'm sure his confidence is building. Like, he looks more confident. So
We're going to see Bryce. Yeah. We're going to see Bryce play tonight. We might have 3 startable fantasy rookie quarterbacks this year. It's absolutely
crazy.
If Anthony Richardson gets through the concussion, like he is what right now? Is he a top 10 quarterback in the league right now?
Okay,
Like in scoring?
The quarterbacks need to relax because this is the year of the rookie tight end. Don't they know? Don't they know the rookie tight ends? The rookie tight ends already called this year. They said we're gonna have startable rookie tight ends.
Report it, baby.
No,
quarterbacks are supposed to be next year. I think
we're the star. We're the star of the show.
Before we get into our next puzzle, Joey, you took an early lead here, $500.
Yes.
You're going to get to go first, but Z Money had a question for us. Wants to know,
What's
do
up,
I trade
Z-Money?
Pickens, T-Law, and Travis Etienne for Hunter Henry and Tua? That second T-Law is supposed to be Tua. So, John Luke, I'm going to throw this one your way first. Would you trade George Pickens, Trevor Lawrence, and Travis Etienne? Oh, I'm guessing that's probably Derrick Henry and Tua Tagovailoa. There's no way that's Hunter Henry and Tua Tagovailoa.
no way.
Unless the hype after his game yesterday is just a little out of control.
So it's tough to answer this fully without the league details. I'm assuming this is super flex, considering actually I don't know that because you could just be upgrading quarterbacks. Let us know if it's super flex or not. It might change my answer. So Pickens,
If it's dynasty too.
yeah, if it's redraft or dynasty. So Pickens, I'll just assume redraft one quarterback since that's what most people play. Do I trade Pickens, Trevor? I think I would keep side A, especially in a one quarterback.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a one quarterback, I'm not that concerned with swapping Trevor Lawrence and Tua. It might be a slight downgrade in either direction, depending if you're looking for risk or upside. And then it comes down like Pickens and Travis Etienne for Derrick Henry, and I would probably make that move depending on my team. And so if you have depth and you can package these 2 players to get the upgrade to Henry, I would make that move actually.
It's a weird one for me
What
because
Jail
I'm definitely much higher on Tua than I am on Trevor Lawrence. It was that way going into the season, and after 2 weeks, nothing has happened that has done anything but make me believe Tua has that kind of top 5 upside that maybe doesn't exist for Trevor Lawrence. But I'm also pretty high on Travis Etienne, and again, I haven't seen anything through the first 2 weeks that has changed my mind on that. The way they've used Tank Bigsby has made me confident in Travis Etienne overall. I know the game yesterday was odd offensively. I think I'm taking the Derrick Henry and Tua side of this, though, because there is a big enough jump from Etienne to Henry for me, and I'm much higher on Tua than I think you are, JL, which would probably explain why I would take this and you'd stay on the other side.
I think JL hit the nail on the head. If you've got the depth that you can give up Pickens and still be fine, you absolutely make this trade. And JL is exactly.
I would like to know who their second quarterback is too.
Yeah.
Sitting down.
He said it's a 10-man 10-team PPR, which makes me lean even more heavily on the make that trade because then there's more players available, so consolidate.
Absolutely.
Get that done. Thank you for your question, Z Money. All right. With that being said, we're going to move on to our next round here. Joe, we're going to add that $500 into your total bank, and we're going to load up puzzle number 2. This category is player restaurant mash up, but up didn't fit. So it's just called a mash here. Restaurant's a long word. This is going to be the name of the player. This is very similar to what Joey said. It is going to be a player's name smushed together with the name of a restaurant to some varying degree of success. Joey, you got that last one right in the toss-up, which means you get to go first. Julia will be after you, followed by John Luke. Your options are to answer a question or solve this puzzle. What would you like to do?
I'm going to have to take a question. I'm not that savvy yet.
Okay. Well, Julia looks ready to strike if you get any of your questions wrong.
I don't know what that one word is, though.
Pressure applied. Joey, here's what we got. What I want to know is who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2. who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Gabe Davis or was it Mike Evans?
Mike Evans.
It was Mike Evans,
Yeah, it
29.1
was.
to Gabe Davis's 21.2.
Hall of Famer.
Which letter
so
would you like,
excited.
Joey?
Give me an R.
An R. There is one R in this puzzle. Can add $500. You can now purchase vowels if you would like to do so. Your other options remain the same. What's it going to be, huh?
This is not Red Robin Thicke, which would not be a player restaurant mashup. Well, I guess Robin Thicke kind of is a player.
He's a player.
I will take another question,
Fight you
please, Simon.
Joey, here is your next question. Who had more PPR fantasy points this weekend? Who had more PPR fantasy points during week 2? Was it James Cook or was it Gus Edwards?
James Cook.
James Cook is correct. Which letter would you like, Joey?
T.
T. There are 2 T's in this puzzle. This is your last opportunity to buy vowels this turn if you would like to do so, or you can take your third question.
Question, please.
Okay, Joey, who scored more PPR fantasy points this weekend? Who scored more PPR fantasy points this weekend? Was it Bijan Robinson or was it CeeDee Lamb?
Bijan?
I'm sorry, Joey. It was CeeDee Lamb with more PPR fantasy points, which means we are moving on to Julia. Julia, you were acting like you might know it there for a second. Would you like to solve it or would you like a question?
Okay, I was super hoping it was something Olave Garden, but it wasn't because I like the Olive Garden.
Dreams Dash.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna take a question then.
Okay, my question for you, and this is a reminder to everybody in the chat to play along with us. And with that reminder, I'm going to remind our contestants to have that chat closed in case they get it before you do. Julia, here is your question.
Wait, how do I close it? How do I close it?
If you full screen the
Look,
video.
you like how honest I am?
So honest.
There we go.
That's the move I play when I'm about to cheat. So good job, Julia. You're learning
How
well.
do I do it? I'm so pretty. Okay.
All right, Julia, here is your question. Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Terry McLaurin or was it Josh Reynolds?
Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds is correct. Which letter would you like?
H.
H. There are 2 H's in this puzzle. Going to add 1,000 to your score. Would you like to buy a vowel? Would you like another question or would you like to solve this puzzle?
You're a buffoon, Simon.
Oh no. I need a question.
Okay, question number 2. Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Mike Williams or was it Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk is correct. He did in week 2 what he looked like he would never do after week 1. What letter would you like, Julia?
S.
S. There is 1 S in this puzzle. Julia, this is your last opportunity to buy vowels if you would like to do so this turn. Otherwise, we can move on to your third and final question, or you can solve this puzzle.
Is this like a Midwest East Coast restaurant that I'm not going to know?
No, you'll know it.
Okay. I would like a question.
Okay, question number 3. Get this right and the letter right. You will bank this money. Who had more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who had more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Gus Edwards or was it Justice Hill?
The Gus Bus.
The Gus Bus did, not by much, but by about 4 PPR points. Which letter would you like, Julia? Get this right, you'll bank all this money.
C.
C. There are 2 C's in this puzzle. Going to add 1,000, Julia. You've got 5 seconds to solve, or we're moving on to JL.
Richard.
Richard is so close, but is
I'd like to steal. I would like to steal.
Don't be a Richard. I'd like to solve.
You've banked all that money up, though, Julia. All 2,500 of it.
I'll take that win.
But JL, it sounds like you would like to solve this puzzle before it can get back to Joey.
Yes, please. I would. Rashad Whitecastle.
Oh,
this is good. Rashad Whitecastle, John Luke. That's going to earn you $1,000 into your bank. Nice job, my friend. And John Luke.
Nice puzzle.
Rashad White showed up this week. After week 1, people were starting to get a little nervous that maybe we wouldn't get the Rashad White that we thought when looking at the depth chart at the beginning of the season, but he showed up for fantasy managers in week 2 which version of Rachaad White are you buying, or is the version that you're buying the complete picture of week 1 plus week 2? We just might get weeks like either of those.
Yeah, I think that's the more likely scenario. Rachaad White, we haven't seen him in the NFL before, so we're filling in from nothing. Just everyone's hopeful optimism coming into the season. But what we saw across 2 weeks was he got 17 attempts each of those 2 weeks. First week he did go against Minnesota, found a little bit of a tougher time. I think that game might have just been more difficult for them. And then we have the Chicago Bears the second week, and their defense has been fairly weak so far this year. And he got the touchdown in week 2. And so I want to see more. We need more data to really extrapolate much here, but I love seeing the amount of attempts they're giving him.
Mr. Buccaneers fan, Joey, when you watch Rachaad White's first 2 weeks, what's your prognosis for the rest of the season?
I think that offensive line for the Buccaneers is in trouble. So if they're going against anywhere near a competent defensive line, I'm worried about Rachaad White. And Chase Edmonds is not going to be there next week. So that's going to bring Sean Tucker up the depth chart a little bit. I don't think Rachaad White's on the hot seat, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's more of a 50-50 split when we're looking at like week 6 or 7, because Tucker's the real deal. He's really good at Syracuse, and he fits that Buccaneers offense really well. Listen, if I've got White in my starting against the Eagles on Monday Night Football next week, if I have to, I probably drafted him like I needed to, but I'm hoping I can start him as a flex. So I'm a little worried.
I drafted him like I needed to. Rachaad White is my RB1 in a lot
Is he really?
of leagues. Yeah, I am so overexposed on Rachaad White, so I'm really hoping that week 2 we saw, and I'm just going to pretend like the worst offensive line in football isn't the worst offensive line in football there in Tampa Bay, because Joey,
he is a fellow Sun Devil.
Yeehaw. That's not what Sun Devils say. Julia, I saw you nodding along.
Yeah,
Joey.
Yeah, no, I think Sean Tucker is very good as well. And I think they will want to see what they have in him. So they're going to sort of give him a longer leash to sort of play that out. I don't know. There's so many teams that I'm just confused by as of right now.
Yeah.
And it is hard. It's like you're saying, the more weeks we have, the more data we have, all that sort of stuff. But it's like putting a puzzle together when you kind of don't know what the end picture is supposed to look like, and you're getting a couple pieces here and you're getting a couple pieces here. And I think it's like in a couple more weeks, we'll have a good idea about a lot of teams. But
it's like the Packers just came up to you halfway through doing the puzzle, like, oh wait, actually it's this one, and then just hand you a completely different picture.
Not the picture I wanted. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Or like a random piece that you now have to fit in your puzzle.
Yeah, this one goes somewhere in the middle. You'll figure it out. Scampers came in here with the first guess on this puzzle, saying Ross Long John Silver. So close. And then came in and got it with Rachaad Whitecastle, just spelled a little wrong, but then came in and corrected it. And then corrected that correction because they forgot the D. But nice job, Scampers, Dustin, figuring that one out. Also, Dustin not loving Sean Tucker. He thinks Sean Tucker sucks. So you guys can fight him. Fair. Julia and Joey versus Dustin.
Like the Buccaneers that I like, and he likes the ones I don't like on my team.
Tis a rule.
Let's make a Bills Bucks trade. Let's just trade all the players we don't like. Let's do a mix match, Dustin. That's what we'll do.
Mix match.
See if we can make that happen.
Bill Belichick for your Mike Evans.
Dude, Mike Evans was the best draft at this point. I'm very happy with my Mike Evans shares after this week.
Boy, do I love this. Is a pro Mike Evans show. You've got me and Joey just like giggling down there anytime somebody says something
go to the Hall
about
of
Mike
Fame.
Evans.
10 seasons in a row, 1,000 receiving yards.
Yeah.
Well, John Luke, you solved that last puzzle, bringing you up to $1,000. Julia banked $2,500 for getting all the trivia right. Joey, you're sitting at $500 from solving the toss-up. It's still anybody's game. And since John Luke solved that last one, Joey, you are up first. This next category is NFL headline. This is a headline from around the league. Joey, you're up first. Would you like to solve this, or would you like a question?
Question, please.
Okay. Joey, my question for you is, who scored more PPR fantasy points this week? Who scored more PPR fantasy points this week? Was it David Montgomery, or was it Tony Pollard?
Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard is correct. Which letter would you like, Joey?
L.
L is in loser.
Yep.
There are no L's in this puzzle.
No.
You asked for it, you get it.
That top name's not Zach Wilson.
Or I spelled it wrong. One of the two.
Wait, what would that headline have been? Zach Wilson.
That's Julia. Those are the thoughts that were going through my head a few moments ago, but now they're not. Now I got to figure it out.
Did you see that Micah Parsons hit? And I was like, oh God, did he kill him? Like, he hit him so hard.
He bounces, I'm pretty sure. He's still young enough that he bounces whenever he hits the ground.
Oh my God.
Julia, would you like a question or are you going to solve this one? No letters on the board.
I would like a question, please.
Okay. Who had more PPR fantasy points this week? Who had more PPR fantasy points this week? Was it Ramondre Stevenson or was it Zach Moss?
Zach Moss.
Zach Moss is correct. Which letter would you like?
S.
S. There are two S's in this puzzle. Bring in $1,000 into your round bank. You can now choose to buy a vowel if you would like to do so, or we can move on to question 2, unless you want to solve.
I would like a question, please.
Okay, question number 2 coming your way. Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Justin Jefferson or was it Nico Collins?
This feels like a trick. Justin Jefferson?
I am sorry. It was a trick. It was Nico Collins with more PPR fantasy points than Justin Jefferson this week.
That seems so long ago, Thursday night. It
Right?
feels so long ago.
Right? That was last season almost. John Luke, would you like a question or would you like to solve this puzzle?
Question
Coming your way. Who had more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who had more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Deebo Samuel or was it Marquise Brown?
Marquise Brown.
I am sorry, John Luke. Old school Deebo showed up and outdid Marquise Brown this week. Joey, on to you.
I would like to try and solve this.
Okay. See if you can do it with just the snake jazz on the board.
Puka Nacua sets a league record.
Shut the fuck up.
Joey, that is incorrect. I am so sorry, which means we are on to Julia. Julia, would you like to solve? Would you like to buy a vowel or would you like a question?
I would like a question.
Okay. My question for you is who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Amon-Ra St. Brown or was it Tank Dell?
Oh, frick. I think it was Tank Dell.
And you think right. It is Tank Dell. Which letter would you like, Julia?
Let's try a T then.
A T. There is one T in this puzzle. Going to add 500. Your options remain the same. You can buy a vowel, you can take a question, or you can solve.
Joey, what did you say? You said Puka Nacua.
I'm not going to say what I said.
I'm gonna punch you through the computer screen.
He said Puka Nacua sets a new record.
No, he said sets a league record, right?
League record.
Yeah,
okay.
New record.
I will take a question.
Okay, question number 2 coming your way. Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Who scored more PPR fantasy points in week 2? Was it Devonta Smith or was it Jordan Addison?
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith is absolutely correct. Which letter would you like, Julia?
Well, now I want to see if that's right. All right, let's try a P.
A P. There is one P in this puzzle. Going to add 100. Julia, this is your last opportunity to buy vowels this turn, or you can choose to take your third question or solve this puzzle.
Puka Nacua sets a rookie record.
Puka Nacua sets a rookie record. Julia stealing the points away from Joey and taking a sizable lead with that one. Nice job.
Nice.
20 targets, 15 receptions for Puka Nacua in week 2 against an unbelievably difficult matchup. That is the most receptions by a rookie in a game ever. And through 2 weeks, he's got the most receptions for a rookie through 2 games ever. Both rookie records, I guess technically league records as well, as rookie is a subset of that. But this game isn't say something accurate. This game is say what's on the puzzle. Julia, are you buying into Puka Nacua as someone that, even with Cooper Kupp coming back, we can trust?
Yes.
Yes.
I think he's great. Like, in my crappy rebuild dynasty team, I have him and I'm very happy. He looks great. I mean, it's the targets, right? Like he could have had an even bigger game one with like, didn't he drop something? There was a couple other things. I think we're all kind of surprised at how good the LA Rams look. And I know like Matt Stafford is sponsored by AARP and could easily step on like a nail and break himself. But I think as long as he stays healthy, I know that line is not fantastic, but like I think this kid's for real. Like was it you, Joey? We were talking about him early on in the off season. Was it you?
It was. I'll give credit. It was Jay Felicio. Was all in
Okay.
on Puka Nacua from our team, and when we had you on the mock draft.
Yeah.
When I made those horrible comments about you, he was saying good things about Puka.
Yeah, that's really sweet of you. Thank you.
No, I look at what
I'll give credit to
Nacua's-
Jay. I'll give credit to Jay.
Yeah.
In week one, you wondered, was this just a fluke? We've seen it before. A player heavily targeted in a single week, but 2 weeks in a row, the target's going up. And in a tough defensive matchup, Matthew Stafford relying on a single player like we've seen him do. That's the other piece of this that makes you believe it, is we watch him do this with Cooper Kupp, right? Lock in on a single target, feed all the targets to that player. And here he is doing it again. He found it with Puka Nacua.
Well, can I ask you this? Do you think Cooper Kupp will be back in week 5?
Yes.
Joey, you think he is? I'm less certain, but I'm not sure.
I am less certain as well, especially if it doesn't look like they need him right away. I think that hamstring is real tender.
Yeah. And if they're not expecting to necessarily be a playoff bound team, do they look better than was expected going through the first 2 weeks? Maybe they take it a little easy with Cooper Kupp now that Puka Nacua is stepping up. I got a question. Go ahead, Joe.
With not to pour water on the Puka party here.
On the Puka
But
party.
he does have 35 targets on the season, which is 10 more than any other wide receiver in the league. I do think this target share will go down as the season goes on, but I don't think that invalidates the point here, which is that he looks good and he looks talented. And even if those targets go down, those opportunities go down, he's still likely going to perform.
Dame got this one with no letters on the board. Nice. No letters solved in the chat. Nice job, Dame. And then Tim came in and after Joey gets the league said rookie record, probably. So nice job with the chat for sussing that one out. We had a question from Grimfan in here before we head into our next puzzle. It says, I need a little fantasy help, guys. Should I pick up Josh Reynolds from the Lions and drop Zay Jones? So Zay Jones with the big week 1. Not so good week 2. We saw Christian Kirk show up in week 2. Josh Reynolds coming off the big week. Joey, since you audibly groaned at this question, you volunteered yourself to answer it first.
Here's my problem with Josh Reynolds. We saw this last year with the Lions. When Jameson Williams was not on the field, Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, they thrived. When Jameson Williams came back, their numbers came down a little bit. Sam Laporte is now in the mix a little bit. I am worried once Jameson Williams steps on the field, Josh Reynolds is going to go away. I don't think Zay Jones is going away. I think he's going to be involved in that Jaguars offense for the entire season. I just think we have a very similar look than when Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin were for the Bucs that 1 year. Yeah. 2 guys were great every week. 1 week, not so much for one guy. And Zay Jones almost cut a touchdown in the end zone yesterday. I'm still sticking with Zay Jones, but find a way to get Josh Reynolds on your team. I really like him. Maybe cut your kicker and just ride Josh Reynolds until you have to pick somebody up.
Dustin agreeing with you almost wholeheartedly, Joey. Very similar phrases there. Reynolds is a flash in the pan. It will be nothing when JMO comes back. And
beautiful.
I tend to agree with you. I trust Zay a little bit more as well. Jedi had a trade question for us. Speaking of Puka Nacua, so I got an offer for Puka Nacua plus Calvin Ridley for CeeDee Lamb. Would you guys accept it? Joey, you were shaking your head. Are you taking this?
No, I'm not.
I'm not accepting it. And it has nothing to do with Puka. It has to do with Calvin Ridley. I don't want to lose Ridley. I think he's going to be something special this year. And I think Dallas is down the stretch is going to find a way to struggle. That defense is so good. I think all they have to really do is run the ball the rest of the season. So I want Puka and Ridley. Gives you a little bit more depth this early in the season. Injuries could still happen. It's not much of an upgrade for me.
That's why I feel the exact same way. I think Dallas will lean on that defense and that run game. And like you said, they will find a way to fail. They're Dallas. And I agree with you. I think Calvin Ridley he's incredible. When you see him run, he's just incredible, the things he can do. I wouldn't trade that.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to move on to
that trade.
You would
making that trade.
I think I would make that trade, especially where we are in the season. consolidate up for CeeDee Lamb. I understand the arguments for the team. I think those are valid. I just think he's going to be the guy regardless of what they do. Like, he's going to be their passing game, a big part of their passing game. Ridley, I'm bullish on, but I feel like this is an upgrade. And when you package in Puka Nacua, who is a player who is that his value is definitely inflated right now, regardless of, even if you're hyped on Puka Nacua, his value's like very inflated because everybody's talking about him. And so I would make this trade, take advantage of that, upgrade your wide receiver position, and then you have an extra spot on your bench to go play the waiver wire early, which is going to give you a huge advantage.
JL, do you think he can get more than Lamb? Do you think he should shoot for more? Like, go for Stephon Diggs. Like, I think Puka and Ridley for Diggs, I think you can get that done. I really do, especially that Diggs owner needs the depth. Look for more than Lamb. And maybe that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, guys, we are going to move on to our next matchup here. Our next puzzle. I see some more questions popping in. We'll answer that in between rounds. This is an offense-defense mashup. So I took an offensive player's name and a defensive player's name and smushed them together in some way, shape, or form. So you've got an offensive player and a defensive player mashed together, similar to how we do movie mashups and stuff like that. That last puzzle was solved by Julia. Stole it from Joey after he said league record, which means, John Luke, you are going first in this puzzle. Would you like to solve or would you like a question?
Question.
Okay. We're going to move on over to some weekly rushing yard statistics, John Luke. What I want to know is who had more rushing yards this week? Who had more rushing yards this week? Was it Christian McCaffrey or was it DeAndre Swift?
Oh, God.
That's
Swift.
mean.
They both had so many.
What'd you say, JL?
Swift.
Swift is correct. Number one on the week with 175 rushing yards in that game. McCaffrey had 116. So a pretty good game for him as well. Which letter would you like, JL?
Let's go with an R.
R. There are two R's in this puzzle. Going to add 1,000 to your round bank. You can now purchase a vowel if you would like to do so. Your other options remain the same.
I'll buy the A.
The A. There's one A in this puzzle. Going to subtract 100. What would you like to do now?
Thank you very much. That
welcome.
A will be all for me, and I will take another question, please.
Okay. On to another question. Who had more rushing yards in week 2? John Luke. Who had more rushing yards in week 2? Was it Isaiah Pacheco or was it James Conner?
Oh, I don't remember. Pacheco.
I'm sorry, John Luke. It was James Conner at 106 rushing yards this week to Pacheco's 70-something. I lost it. I was 70 exactly.
You had 106 rushing yards this week, Simon.
Thank you so much. Joey, would you like a question or would you like to solve this puzzle?
I'm just sad I had Simon on my bench if he had that many. I should have started him.
I thought I had that was the right call.
I thought I had this solved, but I am. No, I did not. So I will take a question.
Okay. Who had more rushing yards this week? Who had more rushing yards in week 2? Was it Tony Pollard or was it Raheem Mostert?
It was Raheem Mostert.
It was Raheem Mostert. Joey, which letter would you like?
Give me the D.
Woo! There are 4 D's in this puzzle.
D's on Joey.
Doctor.
Okay. I'm going to buy some vowels, I guess.
Okay.
So I can figure this out.
Yeah.
I'll buy an I.
An I. There are 2 I's in this puzzle. Going to subtract 200. What's it going to be, Joey?
I'm going to take a question, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this question number 2? I believe so.
This is question number 2.
Who had more receiving yards this week, Joey, in week 2? Who had more receiving yards in week 2? Was it Marvin Mims Jr. or was it Devontae Adams?
So Mims had 2 receptions, but he had it for like 113 yards. And Devontae Adams had, I'm still going to go with Mims, even though it was only 2 receptions.
Those 2 receptions were more than enough to beat out Devontae Adams. Yeah. Which letter would you like, Joey?
The N.
N as in no way?
Yeah.
There are 2 N's in this puzzle, Joey. That's going to add $1,000. This is your last opportunity to buy vowels if you would like to do so. but you
Question.
don't. Who had more receiving yards in week 2? Who had more receiving yards in week 2? Was it Puka Nacua or was it Keenan Allen?
Puka Nacua.
Is that your
Puka
answer,
Nacua.
Joey?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Keenan Allen may have been the
Okay.
#1 fantasy wide receiver on the week, but he had the help of some touchdowns to get him there. Which letter would you like, Joey?
S.
Yeah.
So I can bank the money.
S. There are 2
Okay.
S's in this puzzle, Joey. That's going to add another 1,000. You've got 5 seconds to try to solve.
What the heck is this?
Desmond
Which
Ritter,
means-
Rainn Wilson.
What?
Unfortunately, that is incorrect, which means, Julia, we are
I don't
on to
know.
you. Joey's going to bank all 3,800 of that, JL. We're going to
Yeah.
get you back up to 900 where you were sitting. But Julia, would you like to solve this puzzle or take a question?
I'm going to have to take a question.
Okay. A question for Julia. Who had more,
Oh.
who had more receiving yards this week? Who had more receiving yards in week 2? Was it Amon-Ra St. Brown or was it Mike Williams?
Did you not ask this question? No, you did not. You asked a different question. Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra is correct. And sometimes I ask the same question. Which letter would you like, Julia?
M as in Mary.
M as in Mary. There are 2 M's in this puzzle. Going to add 1,000. You can buy a vowel. You can take another question, or you can solve this puzzle.
Oh God. I need a question.
Okay, a question. Who had more rushing yards in week 2? Who had more rushing yards in week 2? Was it Bijan Robinson or was it Derrick Henry?
More rushing yards?
Yes.
What was that? Did a
We're
squirrel
breaking
die off
Julia.
camera?
Bijan?
Bijan is correct. The #2 running back on the
Bijan.
week in rushing yards. Which letter would you like, Julia?
I would like an L, please.
An L. And you got it, because there are no L's in this puzzle, which means we are moving on to
okay,
John
that's good.
Luke.
Fuck, what the fuck?
JL, would you like to solve this puzzle, or would you like a question, or would you like to buy some vowels?
I can buy vowels. That's right. I would like to buy an E.
An E.
Good job.
There are 3 E's in this puzzle, JL. Going to subtract 300, and you have enough money to continue buying vowels if you would like to do
I
so.
would like to solve, please.
Okay.
Desmond Rid Derwin James.
This is Desmond
Oh,
Derwin
that is
James.
Irwin.
I've heard it
Good,
both
that's
ways.
good.
I was trying to say, who's Irvin James?
Irvin, Steven.
That was a good
Joe.
one, Simon.
You're going to earn $1,000 for solving
Good
that
job, JL.
puzzle. And the
Yeah,
chat
Julia
was
out.
on that one. Dane came in with Desmond Derwin James. It is hard to say. And then
Yeah.
Dustin right after her coming in with that one, and Grim around the
Right.
same time as well.
That was tricky.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was good, Simon. That was a good puzzle.
that was really
Don't
good.
ever do that category again.
John Luke, is Desmond Ritter someone that you should be looking at as a streamable quarterback in the right matchups?
Yeah, I think he's right. He belongs right there with this tier of younger quarterbacks, the Sam Howells of the group of the NFL, where you can stream them in good matchups until we see more data that backs up that shows some consistency. I would keep them out of here. I wouldn't make Desmond Ritter a must start, but he's absolutely streamable, especially with the weapons he has in the offense he has available to him.
Cody Smith coming in here saying no fair. Defensive players aren't real. And that's true.
Fact.
That is 100% true. Well, guys, that is going to be the end of our game today,
No,
which
it's
means
not.
Julia, by $200, you are the champion of today's
So
game of
mad.
Fantasy Fortune.
When did I get in last
Congratulations.
place?
Oh, thanks, guys.
JL,
Well,
you had some good
Joey,
solves
do you
in
want to
there,
play
though.
another one? We can play
No.
Well, Joey,
it's fine.
I got bad news. We got some questions in the chat that we got to answer.
I don't want to answer questions. I want to win
No
a
more
game.
time for puzzles.
that.
I'm
You
going to be
asked
honest
me
with
to
you.
get- yeah.
The next
All right, let's
puzzle-
answer questions.
The next puzzle is a freaking doozy, and that's why we're not trying to fit it in here at the end, because I don't
should have
think
prepared
we're
more than
ready
5
for
puzzles then, Simon.
If Simon's saying it's a doozy,
this. Then it's a doozy.
What if
We
I
gotta-
can guess it in the dark? Can I win the game?
Sure, Joey. If you can guess the
No,
answer
Without
don't
looking
do
at the puzzle. You can't look at the puzzle.
Let me open Notion.
You just have to say a phrase and it has to be right.
Well, we had a question in here from Julia. Wanted to know, would you trade Justin Fields and James Conner? So I'm guessing maybe this is one for the other, or let's look at it that way. Julia, whenever you're looking at these two players, how are you valuing them in a trade?
Well, it depends. There's so much you need to know about the team, right? You need to know who the other quarterback is. I think, look, I love me some James Conner, and he is pretty much the Arizona Cardinals offense right now. I think you can. I think with James Conner is like the thing you get nervous about is his body gonna leave him at like week 12 or 13, right? Because he is an older gentleman. So it's like if you can take advantage of that for a little while and then maybe trade him away then. But I think he's the Arizona offense right now, and I don't want to be scared about Justin Fields because I have a lot of Justin Fields. But as you can tell by the pitch in my voice, I'm a little scared about Justin Fields. Like, are we all scared about him?
No, everything's fine.
Everything's great.
No, everything's good there in
The
Chicago.
Instagram post of the dog with everything on fire, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
everything's good there. You can just hold on to Justin Fields. I wouldn't worry about that at all.
I mean, I would worry who their other quarterback is, because if they drafted Justin Fields, they probably just drafted him pretty early.
Yeah. John Luke, are you trying to trade either of these players right now, or are these guys that you're keeping on your roster?
I would maybe be interested in trading away James Conner, because exactly what Julia said, he is the Arizona Cardinals offense right now. And one thing we know for running backs, there's a limit to how much you can really take in a single season. So now might be the best time to do it if it makes sense on your team. I wouldn't do it in this case if this is a quarterback running back swap in a one quarterback league. I would not make that trade.
Joey, we had a question in here from Jacob looking for some start-sit
Hi, Jacob.
advice. Says he's loaded at wide receiver in a 12-team double flex PPR league and needs to sit one of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, and Puka Nacua. Good God almighty, Jacob. This is the team of my dreams.
How does he draft that? What is he like?
Jacob, I want you to walk into the bathroom or your closest
bathroom
outer room. And I want you to look in the mirror and say, I did it. Because you did it. You drafted a bunch of good wide receivers. And if you drafted Puka, congratulations. If you pick him up the waiver wire, congratulations there too.
Spend a little extra time in the bathroom for that one.
Someone in the stall is like, what'd you do?
Yeah. If you go into a public restroom, you get even more points. Listen, I'm gonna sit Puka out of this group.
Are you in?
I know.
Get
some
more
guy on
points
the crapper is like, sit Lockett. I don't know.
Did you say shit Lockett?
You just start saying Puka Nacua, Puka Nacua.
I would sit Puka out of this group, Jacob. You drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, and Tyler Lockett. They're all top 20 wide receivers, if not top 10 for half of the guys there. Congratulations.
What do you think his running backs look like?
I believe in him.
Frank
It looks
Gore
like
And Frank Sinatra.
he's got Brian Robinson and Kyron Williams as his starting running backs,
and
this
he's
team
winning
is
the
just
league,
rolling all over the league. Is how we're rolling. John Luke, who are you sitting here? I think I'm sitting Lockett, but it is between Lockett and Puka, the name that Joey threw out there. Which name is it for you?
Yeah, I would sit Puka out of this group. Lockett, he looked fantastic this past week. I understand the volume is there for Puka right now and the hype is there. I'm looking for probability though. Probability is on Lockett's side.
And Julia, of those four, who are you resting? And Scamper says you have elite thinking sound. So if you need to think about this one, the chat's ready.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit Puka too. I don't with chagrin.
Wow, man, lame. One wants to just roll with the hype. I get it though. You guys are probably smart, and I'm probably going to be the guy with Puka Nacua with 4.7 PPR points on his team next week. Scott Fish in here saying, "Got it." FYF hates Puka.
Oh my god!
If you average it, yes, we hate Puka. And also, Scott wants to know what Joey thinks about his tool. Says it looks even better today.
I didn't think this comment would get up on the chat, so I privately texted Scott, "Please show me your tool." So once I get off the show, Scott, I can't wait to look at your tool.
He used to send me these obscure tool comments last season. Now he doesn't do it. He does it to Joey.
Also, Scamper's in here saying, whenever someone knocks on a
Upgrade.
bathroom stall door, I'm now just going to yell, Puka Nakua!
Perfect.
That is now a rule for everyone
Perfect.
here. You have to do that if someone knocks on your stall door. Just yell Puka Nakua.
Oh, can we start that trend?
We're starting it. With
Airports
that,
would be chaos.
they're going to start saying it over the intercom, like, do not leave your bag unattended and do not yell Puka Nakua in the
Stop
bathroom.
screaming Puka Nakua.
Yeah. And use Puka Nakua when you go to Starbucks and ask what your name is. Just let's get them saying Puka
dare
Nakua
you.
everywhere.
Just to see how it's spelled.
I used
guys-
Burt Reynolds for a long time at Starbucks.
It
Go
would
ahead,
be
Simon.
super funny if every week, like the highest waiver wire ad, you go into Starbucks and have that name on a cup.
Every single
like
week.
it.
That's
You gotta-
content, really.
Puka Nakua always in the
the
bathrooms, but
baristas.
the Starbucks cups change on a weekly basis. Guys, that is going to be it for us today. You've got your homework assignments. Go to your local Starbucks and you can do both. They have restrooms.
Yes.
If you're not already following our friend Julia, you need to fix that right now. You can find her on Twitter at Julia Papworth. It's right there on the screen below her face, and you can find it in the link underneath this video as well. Julia, thank you so much for taking the time to come and play some Fantasy Fortune, and congrats on the W.
Thanks, guys. New York Giants that. So there we go.
Pulled out that victory at the last second. That will be it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time for some more fantasy football game show fun. Until then, though, we are out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon and enjoy the doubleheader Monday night football games tonight. Until tomorrow, adios, everybody.
Bye.
Got a white mocha for Sean Tucker.